Okay, so we really didn't get that closer to canon, but I have never shipped these two more. Hey there you guys, Julie the Bibliophile here, and today I am here for another Librarians episode talk, this time about Season 3, Episode 3, and the Reunion of Evil. This was so good. This was just so good, and, I mean, so I was expecting different things from this episode. Let's get that straight. But what I got was so beautiful. And even though my expectations weren't necessarily met, or rather my hopes, while my hopes weren't necessarily met, I wasn't really expecting them to be. And I'm still happy with what we got. And okay, so this is the episode I have been waiting for since we, saw the first promo where Jake and Cassandra are trapped together. And then we find out they're going to be trapped in a hotel, and it is great all around. And even though we didn't, get what we had been hoping for necessarily, like pretending to be married or an admission of trust, but I'm gonna get to that. So pretty much what I want to say about this is that pretty much every little thing across the two seasons that have ever, been a big ship moment for them was just combined into one episode. All of them were repeated again and combined into one episode, and we even got a little bit more than what we had seen. So, within the first 30 seconds of this episode, I was already dead, because they're walking into this cave together, and she's like, we're like a well-oiled machine, and she grabs his hand and starts, hitting him on the arm, like a girlfriend would do. And, then we see what we had seen in the promos, that Cassandra gets the ice crystal grafted to her. We can see their bickering, we can see this fight that was kind of hidden underneath the subtext, in this whole season, but what I like is that the fight just ended, and come on now. I don't even know where to begin. I shouldn't be filming this so soon after I finish the episode. So they end up at this hotel. Even when they were walking through that stupid blizzard together, just walking through a blizzard, it made me feel like they were in a relationship. When this episode was starting, that feeling you get in your stomach when you're about to go on a roller coaster? It was that feeling in my stomach. I thought I was gonna puke. Oh my god. So there were a lot of cute moments to go off of here, and they find out it's a demon convention, and Jake's like, yeah, I'm Finkelstein, and this woman named Meredith comes up, and they're all they know Jake, and then they're like, who's this? Is this your girlfriend? And this is when we thought, she was gonna be like, yeah, because I thought Cassandra was gonna be trying to protect him from Meredith, because she did know she was a demon at that point. But no, she says she's his sister, which was a little disappointing, but it doesn't matter, because we don't need the frickin' fake relationship to, fuel this ship fire. The first thing that really happened is, Meredith takes Cassandra off, and Olsen takes, Jake off. And Meredith and Cassandra are sitting at the bar, and Meredith is complaining about Finkelstein, and, how he's, the kind of guy that he is. And Cassandra is, talking about him as if he's her brother, but I don't really think, this is the exact kind of cliche trope that you always see with a slow burn couple when it's first starting, when someone asks them about the person who doesn't know the history, and this person just starts listing off about them, whether it's good or bad. In this case, because it was a fight, Cassandra was listing off what Jake was doing that was upsetting her. But clearly she's been hurt by him, and to be hurt by him, there's some feelings there. Jake is just having the time of his life. Cassandra manages to get through to the library to say that we're there in the hotel with these magic goggles, and she notices that the crystal is glowing in her shirt. So, she goes and finds Jake, grabs him, and brings him into a closet. Second time in this show that these two are trapped in a closet together, and this time we actually got a scene out of it, and oh my lord, this scene was probably my favorite in the episode. I mean, this is just strong character and relationship writing, again, from Kate Rorick, this time. We see, they start fighting. They start fighting, but this was not a fight This was like an I care about you fight, and it hurts me that you're hurting me, and this is the way you're hurting me. These are the kind of fights that slow burn couples have before they get together. They're fighting about magic, as we've seen in the subtext of this season so far that we think they might be fighting about. They're fighting about her wanting to use magic and him not wanting to use it, and this fight finally blows up. This is much like when they were fighting and arguing in the beginning of season 1 in the Minotaur episode, which the name I can't remember, the Horns of Dilemma, and then at the end of the episode we had the conversation that started the ship with the I trusted you. They're in the closet and they're fighting, and he's saying, like, I don't want you to get hurt. You're gonna get hurt. So basically this becomes like, I don't want you to use magic because you're gonna get hurt. And she was literally crying and pounding him on the chest, which was so emotional and such amazing acting from Lindy again. But like, this was so relationshipy. This was so relationshipy. Yeah, it was that kind of relationshipy fight that happens to slow burn couples. This was just not a normal fight. And this was such like a turning point for them in their relationship in general, I think. She's crying, she's hitting him, and then they notice that like her crystal is glowing. So Jake like protects her. They're still fighting and they run out. They're trying to get out of this party, this reunion, and Finkelstein shows up, the actual Finkelstein. So then comes this whole interrogation by Orson that, like who's the real Finkelstein, and Jake almost has it, and I thought this was so cool, so like the Librarians with like, you know, like, just little quirky little things actually working for them. And, like, how it worked for them, that the things Jake said were, like, making Orson think he was Finkelstein. Then, like, the fact that Finkelstein actually did have a sister. Jake screws up right at the end, because it turns out Finkelstein and Orson are actually enemies, not friends. And then the episode got really intense, and I was, like, dying and panicking outside of the relationship thing, because then they catch them, and they tie them up, and they're gonna sacrifice Cassandra. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, Cassandra's just, tied up on this table, and Jake's being hung by his wrists, and, like, they're really just, this part, you guys, this part of it was, like, so important for Jake and Cassandra. They look at each other, like, that didn't have anything to do with the relationship, I don't think, because even if, like, you know, you were about to die, you'd look at your friend like that, but, like, it was like a what should we do look. And Jake kind of looking at her like, you gotta use magic, and she's like, okay, like, the conversations these two have through their eyes continues to amaze me. Jake starts spouting and quoting poetry. And eventually, he gets to say, what about Killian? Quoting Cassandra. And the look in her eyes, like, she can't believe that he's saying this, like that magic can be used when it's good. And he looks at her and says, you just gotta have a little faith. And I'm sorry. That's it. He trusts her. He trusts her, okay? There was such an inflection in his voice of I trust you that I even, like, thought he was going to say trust after faith. So, again, like, amazing acting from Christian Kane that I was able to tell what he was saying, like, through the use of different words. So, yeah. He says, you gotta have a little faith. And she looks at him, and it's like, yes, I trust you, okay? He trusts her, and I have never been more sure of it than with this little line here. And that continued later, but first I want to talk about, because what I forgot to talk about was the most important thing to me in that closet scene, was that, she says, like, she's crying and and they're fighting, and she's crying and pounding him on the chest, and she's like, you think I'm fragile, you think I'm this, and he looks right at her, and even though they're still fighting, he says to her, I don't think you're fragile. And this reminded me of back in And What Lies Beneath the Stones. She says to Jake, I liked having you there, but I knew you thought I was sick. And we never got any more context on that line, except now we did. You think I'm fragile. I knew you thought I was sick. I don't think you're fragile. Like, are you kidding me right now? So then they're trying to run away. Barrett and Jenkins and Ezekiel get this back door connected to the hotel. And and they're running, the door keeps disappearing, and Cassandra figures out that because the hotel is moving, because it is a manifestation of this magical storm that they were in, that they have to have the back door, like, attached to something that was moving rather than something that was, like still. And this is, again, when my heart was racing, because they kept going to commercial at the most intense moments, and we had, like, you know, the demons chasing after them, and suddenly the door shuts. And the doors keep shutting, and they're holding, like, right before the door first pops up, like, when it does first pop up, they're like, you have to come through, and they're sitting there holding the door, and Jake looks at Cassandra, and he's like, you go, like, he's ready to sacrifice himself to save her. Can you imagine, though, like, can you imagine if she had gone, and one of them had gotten stuck there, and then, like, the mission for one of them to, like, go after the other one? That would have been so good, but it would have been so much darker than this show. Even though they're getting darker this season, that would have been so much darker than this show ever does. Yeah, that could have happened, but regardless, he wanted her to go, and he was gonna stay. And then she looks at him, and she's like, no, we go together. They run, and then, so then they're at this elevator. They're at this elevator, and once again, he looks at her, he pries it open, and he's like, because he thinks the back door might be at the bottom of it, but they don't know, so they could be plunging to their deaths, and he's like, you just gotta have a little faith, right? Once again, and they grab hands and jump. Like, are you kidding me? They jumped to their potential deaths, holding hands. And after he said, you just gotta have a little faith, right? Which is the moment for me that I'm like, he trusts her. Then we're back at the library. We find out that Crystal does not make Cassandra immortal. She's gonna poop it out. Classic Librarians fashion. And then there's this conversation between Jake and Cassandra where we see, like, the end of their fight. We see the end of their fight, and they have this conversation, this explanation of her explaining to him her position on the magic thing. Like, you see, communication helps you two. And him explaining his side. And she's like, point taken. And he admits to her that, like, the reason he doesn't want her to use magic is he doesn't want her to get hurt. And Baird says, you just gotta have a little faith, right? Because Ezekiel was taking care of Nessie. And they look at each other, and the look that she gives him with tears in her eyes is the exact same look that she gave him after the hug last season. So, I think he trusts her. He trusts her, and I have never been happier. It doesn't look like Flynn is in the next episode with Baird seeing her death, which is, actually, better for my heart. And that also means that because Flynn's not in that, and he's not in episode 5, and he's only been in 2 episodes, that after that, starting with episode 6, the last 5 episodes of the season, he's in all of them. 5 straight episodes in a row, and I'm ready, which means he's not leaving again, which means, whew! But really, guys, Jassandra, I still don't know if it's gonna happen this season, because clearly the things they hinted at for it being tonight, like, didn't exactly follow through, so maybe the hints that they've been giving for the whole season are not gonna come through, but there is the factor that someone asked them, do other romances develop, and they said yes, flat out. It's happening. Some kind of romance is happening and developing, and this seems like the beginning of a development to me, and he trusts her, you guys, and, okay, there was more touching and grabbing and arm linking and hand holding in this episode than we've gotten throughout the entire series. And this episode, I think, really wonderfully wrapped up a lot of Jassandra arcs and a lot of little throwaway lines that we all focused on as the shippers, but that we thought were going to be throwaway lines. Like, I liked having you there, but I knew you thought I was sick. We got an answer to that. We got an answer to the trust, like, in a way. And I really think that's such brilliant writing from the Librarians that even though they don't address things directly, they're making it very clear and understanding. Because I suspected that Jake trusted her, I think we all did, but it was never really outright said. And I wanted it in a little throwaway line, and I kind of always imagined that it would happen, like, she would be, like, holding out her hand and say, trust me, and Jake would grab it. And what we got was so similar to that. Have a little faith, right? And they grabbed hands. And I'm, like, so proud of myself. I'm so happy. Okay. So that's it. Yeah. That was great, you guys. All right, I'll see you next week talking about and the self-fulfilling prophecy and probably crying. Bye-bye, love you.